18 years ago, we lost the legendary Eddie Guerrero. Now, 18 years later, what's the legacy of Latino Heat? Let's find out now. It's really easy to say that Eddie Guerrero is one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time, but that's broad and that's not doing anything justice. The one thing that made Eddie Guerrero one of the greatest of all time, besides being fantastic in the ring, was his promo ability. Eddie's promo ability may be the best ever in professional wrestling history because he always made an emotional impact when he did decide to cut a promo. Eddie had a way with words and Eddie had a way with delivery. And that's a key word, delivery. Because if you watch all of Eddie's promos, you can see the emphasis on certain words. You can see the emphasis on his mentality. And most of all, you can see the emphasis on his emotions when he's cutting a promo. He didn't cut it cold and very broad or anything like that. He put everything he had to it. So, for instance, if you look at his promo with Brock Lesnar, he's going in and he's frothing at the mouth and he's like, you know what, man, I get the satisfaction to tell people like you that you can stick it up your ass. Things like that, little things like that, because he was speaking from a place of anger, but also from a place of gratefulness as well, due to the fact that he had overcome so much. And there's the other thing is the relatability effect with Eddie Guerrero. His relatability and authenticity is what made the crowd connect with him. And if he was in today's era, he could have been WWE champion for 2-3 years straight, and there wouldn't have been an issue with that because the crowd would have loved Eddie so much. And that's actually something with that Kurt Angle said a few years ago, that if Eddie was in today's WWE, he would be world champion for 3 years straight because the crowd would have loved Eddie so much, and he would have been making so much money, and he also would have been making so much money for the company that it wouldn't have mattered if he was holding the championship for that long. So that's another thing with Eddie was continuity and diversity as well. He could work with anybody. He could make anybody look good while still making himself look good. He knew how to lead a match. He knew how to call a match. He knew psychology and when to place things in certain places, as many of his coworkers and peers will tell you. And his storytelling aspect is really what separated Eddie Guerrero from everybody else. And in addition to that, I spoke about his emphasis earlier, but if you look at his promos with Brock Lesnar in the lead up to No Way Out 2004, where he eventually won the WWE Championship, you can see how in each of those promos he's slowly building up to his anger. He kind of begins a little jovial, but you can see that something's kind of bugging him, and you can see that that passion is eventually going to come out. And man, when that climax hits for that promo, that is that, and you get one of the best promos of all time. And actually, that promo with Brock Lesnar on the Go Home show of SmackDown in the lead up to No Way Out 2004 is my favorite promo of all time, just because of, again, that emotional connection that Eddie had. And that's not counting all of his great matches with the likes of Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit, all those guys that he had tremendous matches with. But just from a personality perspective, Eddie was probably the best in wrestling history. And he made such a difference. And it's really too bad that we couldn't have had those dream matches with the likes of AJ Styles and Bryan Danielson, guys like that. Because if Eddie would have worked with those guys, man, I could not imagine the magic that he would have created. And it also would have depended on how much longer he wanted to wrestle. He was 38 when he unfortunately passed away in 2005. So it makes me think, could he have gone another 10 years? I think so, especially when you see the renaissance with guys like Edge and Chris Jericho and Christian going today. If Eddie was healthy physically, he could have easily went till he was 50, like how Rey Mysterio is doing right now, and he still would have put on top quality work. I'm sure he would have had a big singles program with John Cena. I'm sure he had, another program with Batista later on in upcoming years, which, man, I wish that story would have gotten finished because the lead up to that story and the story itself was just so carefully crafted. And I really liked where it was going when Eddie was trying to befriend Batista, and he eventually did. Was he going to turn on him? Or was Eddie going to win the world championship clean and go back to being a babyface? Who knows? But I really wish I could have seen that play out. Plus, we also would have had Eddie Guerrero versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 22. I really wanted to see that match, even though I was only 5 when it happened, when WrestleMania 22 happened, that is. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think Eddie would have done past 2005? I think personally, here's what I have. I have Eddie and Shawn at WrestleMania 22. They end up having a feud of the year contender and probably the match of the year. And then Eddie would probably feud with the Undertaker because that hadn't really happened up to that point. So I could have seen Eddie Guerrero in the Undertaker for WrestleMania 23. And then Batista would probably go on and have another match. Maybe Batista and John Cena for the first time ever. And then Shawn Michaels faces somebody else. Maybe like a Randy Orton or an Edge or something like that. Because I know they were really marketing Cena and Batista at the time as the two faces of the company as the first time ever at SummerSlam 2008. Maybe you do that at WrestleMania 23 because that's when both of these guys were at the apex. Batista was the World Heavyweight Champion, John Cena was the WWE Champion, but maybe Eddie's the World Heavyweight Champion and Eddie faces The Undertaker, which, man, if that feud would have happened, I think it may have been the best feud in WWE history. So that is that as well. However, who else would he have faced? Maybe CM Punk again because they had faced off on the independent circuit in 2002. Maybe you have Eddie and Punk going into 2008, 2009, 2010 even. You can have that. You can have Eddie and Shawn again after 2006. Maybe revisit Eddie and Ray again. Do Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho, especially like 2008, 2009 heel Chris Jericho against babyface Eddie Guerrero. That would have been tremendous. Eddie Guerrero and Triple H as well, I think would have been amazing around that time. So maybe Eddie and Sheamus coming up. There's so much he could have done, and but what we have here is still a Hall of Fame career, and you can arguably call Eddie the greatest of all time, and that's with a shortened career and a shortened life. So let me know what you guys think as well. So back on it. Cheating Death, Stealing Life, the Eddie Guerrero story. I've read the book before, but it's a book that I think everybody should read, whether you're an Eddie Guerrero fan or a pro wrestling fan. That's the other thing, because you'll learn so much about Eddie's life and Eddie's psyche and Eddie's mindset on certain things, especially within the realms of pro wrestling, along with his personal life. So let me know what you guys think again, and that is the thesis. I always say let me know what you guys think because everybody's opinion matters, and if I was just here telling you everything, then that wouldn't mean anything either. So like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hope you all have a good day, and I'll be back soon with more.